Bai Lan, or Let It Rot, is a new movement that's sweeping through China at the moment. Bai Lan is when young people refuse to put in further efforts into life because they just can't see any hope in doing so. Let's cut to the chase here, everybody. You may have heard of Tangping or lying flat. In fact, I did a video about that. And now you may have heard of this new catchphrase coming out of China called Let It Rot. Well, I'm here to explain to you what this means and also to dispel a few myths. This isn't some big thing that's suddenly hitting China all of a sudden and engulfing the youth and the masses. No, this is something that's been going on in China forever. But first, a quick word from today's sponsor. Hey, I get it. We're living in a high-tech world and people need their high-tech gadgets. I mean, have you heard about these optical discs that use lasers? Pretty futuristic, I know. But let's just say you want to write a CD and you hop onto Amazon and you go search for a CD writer. I mean, look at the choice. It's incredible. A Riodas? Awesome. Wait a second, what the hell is a Riodas? What the hell are all these different brands? You know what? They're all very cheaply made, bad CD writers, all from China. And if you're the kind of person who's trying to find quality or trying to support local manufacturing and somebody who's just conscious about where the products they're buying come from, I've got a great little plugin for you. It's called Cultivate. It is a Chrome extension, very easy to install, 100% free, and it will tell you exactly where these products were made. It will tell you exactly what you're buying, and it also gives you locally sold alternatives. I mean, did you know that over 50% of Amazon sellers are based in China? So the only way for you to find out the truth is to install Cultivate and see for yourself. Cultivate also helps you find products available locally so you can have them delivered within 24 hours or pick them up the same day. And also, each purchase you make with a Cultivate partner donates to a charity that you select 24 hours after your purchase. Follow the link in the description to download and install Cultivate 100% free. And now, back to the show. I first have to tell you about one very big difference between Chinese society and Western society, and that has to do with ambition. You see, ambition is usually what drives successful people. You want to have a better car than your neighbor, a bigger house. You want to become successful and famous. It's called ambition, it's called drive, and it's what drives entrepreneurs and business people and people in life in general to really get out there, work hard, earn more money, make a name for themselves. Growing up in mainland China is less about ambition and more about obligation. You're obligated to go out and work in order to support your family, in order to support your parents, in order to support your grandparents, in order to get a house, in order to get married, in order to continue on the family structure. It's a very, very different set of circumstances. You see, hard work is not rewarded in China. In fact, the less you work, the better it is, and the more you are respected. Now, let me give you an example. Somebody who graduates from college now in China with a master's degree, in other words, you have studied and put in the effort and worked incredibly hard to go through high school, which is very challenging in China, and then through college, and you've earned your master's degree, you've earned all your degrees. The kind of job that you're going to get is going to pay a pittance. You will go into a job that earns you less than $1,000 a month. Less sometimes, if you're lucky, a little more. And your boss, the person who's rich, the guy who owns the company, the guy who's running around with the fancy Bentley cars and all the jet setting around the place, will probably be a tobacco uncle who can barely read and write. Somebody who did not put in the work. Somebody who got there through family connections, through CCP party connections, through guanxi. And so the motivation to be a hard-working, overachieving person isn't really there. When you see that 20-year-old driving around in a Ferrari in Canada or Australia or the US, wherever, from China, the student, he didn't work to get there. He didn't earn his Ferrari. That was given to him by his parents who own a factory or have CCP party connections. And this is no different in mainland China. The people running around with fancy cars, throwing money everywhere and showing off their wealth are not people who have earned that money. It's people who have fallen into that money, whether it be through, like I said, family connections or Communist Party connections and that kind of thing. So this whole movement of lying flat and let it rot is very squarely a middle-class problem in China. And look, middle class can mean quite poor in other countries. You know, we're talking about people that are earning a couple of $100 a month, all the way up to people who are earning a couple of $1,000 a month. This is called middle class. In other words, not very poor, but not rich. You see, if you're poor in China, you have no choice. You're moving from your hometown to the cities, to urban areas, and you're working in factories, you're working very hard, you're doing all kinds of menial jobs, whatever it takes, whether you're making truck tires or working on an assembly line or sweeping the streets or whatever you're doing, you do so because you have no choice. You need to work in order to eat and in order to send a little bit of money back to your aging parents and your family back home in your hometown who need money to survive. Low class, poor people in China have no luxury to lie flat or let anything rot. Rich people in China, like I said, couldn't give a damn. Their money's come easy for the majority of them. Very few rich millionaires and billionaires in China actually did any hard work to get themselves there. It's always circumstantial. It's always because of nepotism or because of their party connections, being in the right place at the right time, happening to be on the right piece of land at the right time. It's not through hard work and ambition that they got there. Of course, you will get the exception to the rule, but I'm speaking in generalities here. And go and take a look. Look at the very rich millionaires and billionaires around China and find out what their roots were. You can always trace it back to some or other Communist Party connection or some kind of family connection. That's just how it works in China. So it's the middle class. We're talking about the single children who grew up in a stable home with enough wealth to get by, with enough prospects, with a good education. People out there who know that if they were to just kind of drop their work for a while, they'd be able to coast along on some savings or coast along on their parents or whatever the case may be. These are the people that have the luxury to lie flat or let it rot. And I cannot blame them. As mentioned before, people that put in the work, the effort, that have the drive to actually work hard are never rewarded in China. In fact, they're taken advantage of. If you put in a lot of work in your office, your boss will simply assign you more work to do. You'll be working overtime, unpaid overtime, by the way, as is seen many times in China. You've heard of the whole 996, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week in China. This is real. Not a hell of a lot of work's being done a lot of the time, but you know what? You're still in the office and you're stuck there doing work. And the more work you do, like I said, the more work you'll be given. So people have reached a point now where they realize there is no point in putting in the extra work because you're not rewarded for it in China. If you're not poor and you're not struggling to put food on the plate, why bother? Because you know what? Cost of living in China is actually really cheap. Of course, it's more expensive in the big cities, and it's become more and more and more expensive over the past few decades. But you can still get by paying very little to satisfy your base urges such as hunger and thirst and a roof over your head. Rent is cheap, food is cheap, that sort of thing. So, if you got a little bit of money in the bank, or you have parents who have a job or something along those lines, you can afford to lie flat and let it rot for a while, couple of months, half a year. Of course, you're going to have to do the odd job here and there in order to earn a little bit of spending money, but you get what I'm saying here. This whole idea of lie flat and let it rot is less of a movement that's happening now and more of an attitude that the middle class in China has adopted over the past couple of years. And especially with the way China is going, punishing billionaires. What happened to Jack Ma? What happened to all these billionaires that suddenly get detained, who get disappeared, who end up being charged, who end up fleeing to other countries? It's certainly not an enticing prospect to become a billionaire in China, because it looks like as soon as you do, you get a target on your back. And in nowhere in the world does the old adage, the nail that sticks up gets hammered down, ring more true than in mainland China. After speaking to a number of my friends in China, I came to the current consensus that the ambition that the majority of them have is not to land some kind of a high-paying job or to be a jet setter or to become a millionaire or a billionaire. No, their ambition is to land a government job. Because if you work for the government, everything is taken care of. You get good benefits. They give you a year's supply of oil, rice, and toilet paper as an annual bonus on top of other things. And life is comfortable. You're taken care of. You'll have a good pension. And you won't really need to worry. And you can kind of coast through life. And I find that to be, well, kind of demotivating, to be honest. I met some very bright, very promising people during my time in China, especially when I was working at Tencent. I've met some very smart people. I've met some wonderful, outgoing, amazing people. And it's just horrible to see the system around them beat them down and take all of that enthusiasm and drive and take it away and drain it out of them because of no reward for them putting in the extra effort. China's economy has been slowing down for a long time now. Jobs are far more difficult to get. There is fierce competition, especially for those coveted government positions. But I've got a secret for you. Lying flat, let it rot, it's not new. It's something that's been in China for the longest time, and something that I came across when I first got to China. Traveling in the rural areas, I would often speak to people, and they have a saying, and the saying is, 过日子, which means pass the day. And this is an attitude that you find in the rural areas of China, where people do as little as possible just to pass the day. And next day, wash, rinse, and repeat. It is exactly the same as lying flat and let it rot, just under a different name. So I just wanted to shine a bit of light on this, dispel any illusions you may have that this lying flat, let it rot movement is a massive new thing in China. It's just part of Chinese society, specifically in the middle class. And the more the Chinese government closes off China, the more the Chinese government punishes those who stand out, those who really strive to be something different and special, the bigger this problem is going to get. And soon, China will just be lying flat. I hope you've learned something from this video and are a little bit more equipped the next time somebody talks to you about this whole lying flat or let it rot movement that's happening in China. It's nothing new. Until next time, unlike the Chinese government, stay awesome. Hey, before you guys go anywhere, I just want to say thank you to everybody who watches my videos. I don't know if you know, but everything, all the footage you've seen in this video, including the background and everything, is something I personally shot myself when I was living in China. So you won't see this anywhere else. I've also started adding a little bonus clip at the end of each one of my videos, so stick around right till the end. There'll always be something there. I'll leave it there raw, uncut, with the original audio and everything in it. And again, thank you to each and every one of you who share my videos, watch my videos, and of course a massive, massive shout out to those of you who are generous enough to support me on Patreon. You guys are awesome.